All right, so good morning. My name is Anant Adya, and I am the Executive Vice President at Infosys, responsible for all our cloud solutions and offerings. I'll just start a little bit of a background, but before that, I want to talk about what's our agenda for today. We are going to talk about cloud from an industry perspective, and what we mean by that is how we have evolved our cloud narrative from just being a technology play into being an industry cloud and an industry play, right? And to support that narrative, we have two of our esteemed customers, Sudhakar from Truist and Matt from 777 Partners. Sudhakar represents a very big regional bank based out of Southeast, and Matt actually is from private equity. So both of them leverage cloud in a big way, and they're going to talk about how they have defined industry clouds for their specific industries and their specific domain, and how they are driving business outcomes. So essentially what I wanted to first start by talking about is, so as I said, we have two of our customers, Truist and of course 77 Partners. And from our financial services leadership standpoint, we have Nagesh, who is going to come and talk about his perspective. So if you look at giving a little bit of a background in terms of how we have evolved this journey, in 2020, we actually consolidated all our cloud offerings under one brand called Cobalt. So essentially, we wanted to make sure that we have a very consistent narrative to the market, and we bring in all our offerings under one umbrella, so that there is no confusion and there is a very clear understanding with our customers and our partners in terms of what we are delivering and what our sort of value proposition is on cloud. So when we started in 2020, it was mostly about technology, right? I mean, how can we help customers migrate their workloads to cloud? How can we basically help them take data on cloud, ERP on cloud, do cloud native development, work on IoT, edge, 5G kind of solutions. But it was mostly around technology and a little bit around industries, right? So as we got into pandemic and we actually started looking at what is happening with all our customers and our industries, we came out with this industry cloud narrative, right? So what essentially we did, and of course Sudhakar and Matt are going to talk about that, is we created these reference architectures for industries and sub-industries. So essentially when our teams, whether it is delivery or sales or consulting, they go and talk to our customers, whether it is retail or CPG or manufacturing or discrete manufacturing or aerospace, they sit with this reference architecture and they talk about what are the building blocks of a specific industry or a sub-industry within that. So we said we will actually use that language and talk about industry cloud with respect to some of the things that we see in the industry and how it actually shapes the literal outcomes that actually can be delivered, right? So that's essentially what we did with industry cloud. And now as we get into what we call as Cobalt 2.0, it's all about delivering business outcomes. So essentially what we are trying to say is that there are certain micro factors, and of course there are macro factors that are impacting the way businesses are sort of dealing with all the things that are happening. And essentially cloud is going to be front and center of that. And cloud is no longer about just cost takeout, but it's also about growth and it's also about innovation, right? So essentially that's what we are trying to do here, and we basically said that we want to basically bring a couple of factors into this, right? So what we actually do is we continuously look at some of the industry's trends that are impacting industries, right? So for example, if you look at banking, we look at payment system modernization as one of the trends. How do we basically improve retail experience is the second trend. Third is making sure that the security posture is not compromised. That's the third trend. And one of the other trends that we see is how do we reduce the risk with respect to banking transactions and transactions that are happening in banking. So we look at some of these trends and we replicate this across all the industries. And we then come out and say that, here are all the trends by industries. And here are the 6 technologies. And we believe that cloud is not just the technology, but it's cloud, edge, IoT, 5G, data, and AI. So these 6 technologies will come together to solve some of these industry patterns and focus on some of these industry patterns that we see in the market, right? So we look at the industry trends, we look at the technology drivers, and combine them to create solutions that we can take to the customers, right? So that's essentially what we looked at. So essentially, our focus has been how do we basically make sure that we focus on 3 broad pillars when it comes to our offerings, right? So one pillar will continue to be all the technology offerings. There are still a lot of our customers. We deal with what we call as Global 2000s and Fortune companies who have grown through acquisitions, who have grown through mergers. And they have a lot of technology debt today, and they have a lot of technology investments as well. So technology play will continue to be there, whether it is getting out of data centers, doing cloud native development, looking at ERP in cloud, looking at data in cloud. So looking at the technology offerings will be one pillar of what we will take to our customers and to our market, to the market. The second pillar is what we spoke about as the industry solutions. So what we have done is specific to each of these industries, we have designed solutions that are broadly spoken in 2 ways, right? One is these are cloud neutral solutions, which means they can run on any cloud, including private cloud. And there are certain solutions that we have designed specifically with a partner, like for example, AWS, right? So we have cloud neutral solutions and cloud specific solutions that we have designed. So that will be our second pillar, where we actually bring solutions like our Finacle for banking, Equinox for retail. We look at energy as a service for our energy customers, and many more that actually play a role in specific industry solutions. The third pillar of our solution offering is all about there is a specific business problem, but there is no solution for that. So we actually have partnered with our team, which is called the Infosys Innovation Network. And you can actually visit our booth, where we actually have startups and upstarts that we work with, and we bring them to solve specific business problems where there is no solution. So that's the third pillar, which is all about co-creation and creating solutions for our customers and with our customers. So essentially, what we want to do is, while the technology solutions, the industry solutions, and co-creation will continue, our focus is to move more and more towards outcome-based contracts and outcome-based solutions. So essentially, we have a customer today where our contract is written based on the number of claims that we process for that specific insurance company. There is also a customer where we actually build based on how many claims are we processing from a Medicare and Medicare standpoint, right? This is for a payer in the healthcare space. So essentially, what we are trying to do is leveraging the power of cloud and leveraging the power of technologies and the solutions that we have built as part of our Cobalt offering. We're actually bringing all this together and trying to get more and more towards outcome-based models and delivering outcomes for our customers. So that's essentially what we want to do. And in fact, there is a very detailed case study book that we have published on Infosys.com, which has over 30 case studies. And these are all named case studies where we are talking about what are the specific business problems that we try to solve, what are the solutions that we built, and what's the outcome that we have delivered. So that's essentially what I wanted to cover. So Cobalt 2.0 is all about bringing all the offerings together to deliver business outcomes. And of course, AWS plays a big role, and there are strategic partners with whom we work to sort of bring AWS and associated solutions that they have to offer. With that, I'm going to call Sudhakar to talk about their journey in using banking data on cloud, which is a specific use case, and how they are using that for Truist. Thank you. So green is forward and this is backwards.
Morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sudhakar. I work with Truist Financials. We were a bank, 2 banks we merged a couple of years back, just before the onset of COVID. 2 banks, SunTrust Bank, that is headquartered in Atlanta, and BB&T Bank that was headquartered in Raleigh/Greensboro. We combined together, we formed a new bank called Truist. Our headquarters is in Charlotte. We are the 6th largest bank through the combined operations. So today I wanted to share with you how Truist has leveraged cloud. And it's kind of two different stories. So I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you traditionally what we have done, and as a short step, how we leverage cloud, right? So two different examples. Slide is not working. I'll try to be as illustrative as possible. In the heritage banks, both the banks were well known for our online presence, may it be the web or the mobile applications. So the combined bank, we definitely wanted to be better than both put together, right? We kind of funnily say 2 + 2 is 5 instead of 4, right? For large values of 2. So we wanted to give that experience back to our clients. The expectations are high. So we launched the new experience before the core systems could come together. So there is the core system and the channel experience on one, core system and channel experience on the second. What we did was typical merger, bring it all together, all the applications together at the same time, right, or similar. So the approach that we took was pretty much get the channel out there before the core systems could merge. Because of the better experience, when the core systems merged, the customers were not even aware of it, right, that the core merged. They did have to download our new app, access the new Truist.com website, but that transition happened over a period of time. We call it the straddle, but we straddled across multiple applications, the old two heritage banks and the new system that we chose to build. So that whole straddle approach made our clients experience Truist even before our core systems merged, which was 8 months after. So that was the first step that we did. This was all done in AWS. That way, we did not worry too much about having our core data center, right? We had data centers for both the banks. Where are we going to host it? How are we going to run it? We kind of did it on the cloud in a new account. That way, it became transparent, right? So the channel experience was there. Core was still at the back. Now, all this story is just the background of our lay of the land. The actual presentation that we had here was on the day of merger. Because we had to migrate all the accounts from one of the banks, SunTrust, into BB&T, the amount of time that we took to move the data, make sure that it is added to the respective systems with the integrity. More importantly, regulators wanted to have a check before we could open it to the business. That checking process was very tedious, cumbersome, and it had to be single-threaded, right? I cannot have 3 regulators sit and parallelly check the accounts, right? No, it was going to be going through one regulator for one aspect, another regulator for another aspect. We had to kind of run through all the boxes should be checked, right? In the movies, you have seen this flight takeoff, right? Go for ignition, go for this. We thought it's going to be like that. Okay, go for accounts, go for deposits, go for this. No. One person will take its own sweet time to say, these are my questions, and then the other person starts after seeing what the problem happened with the first regulator. So it was kind of a tedious process that we went through. The key was, at that point, we had to shut down one of the bank systems, right? The other bank system was up and running. We were able to manage live transactions going through, etc. The bank, SunTrust data was being migrated, and this whole process was almost about 40 hours, right? The actual movement of data, checking that it's good, updating it, more importantly, secured, because it cannot be leaked anywhere, right? No mistakes, no nothing. So that 40 hours were going to be a dark period for SunTrust clients. Not a good experience. So we needed to kind of come up with how are we going to solve this, right? So it's like, people talk about problems in the descending order. You take the first problem, once you solve it, the next biggest becomes your biggest problem, and then the next biggest, right? So in that process, we solved all these problems of moving data, securing data, auditing, etc. The 40 hours of dark period became a big issue at that point in time, right? Can't have that. And obviously, coming through COVID, everybody was anxious with what's happening with the market. Everybody started interacting digitally. So people were active digitally for us. So how did we solve that problem? We needed to stand up the last known balance, right? The balance that was taken from the migration aspect. Use that as a static data for all our channels to read from, right? Very simple. It's nothing but a database. Applications can read through it, show a static balance, good to go, right? The devil is really in the detail, right? Large amount of data to be moved to a new data source that can be made available in a secured manner to the channels. Channels have to now start pointing to this new data source, make sure that it is displaying it, and to be able to seamlessly transition to the real data when the data is available, right? We can't take an outage after 30 hours, etc. The third is the amount of change that can go in. Already there is so much of change happening on the systems. We add a third dimension to say, hey, start looking at this stale data or static data, so to say, for a period of time, only for half the customers. And by the way, when customers are being migrated, we want that data to be available immediately. Meaning, if you had only deposit accounts, then if deposit system is up and running, we want you to be live. If you had mortgage and deposits, then once both mortgage and deposits is live, we want to get you on as soon as possible, right? Not wait until everything is done and then open the doors. So all those requirements came in and added the complexity. That's really the problem that we solved with partnering with Infosys and AWS. We tried multiple options, right? Outpost was launched 2 years back. We took Outpost to solve a problem which is our infrastructure that we spun up for this effort was through the cloud, right? We can't put the data in the cloud because of data security. So how are we going to solve it? We put it on Outpost so that it is on-prem. If all of you know what Outpost was on-prem, but it is a cloud component. So it kind of checked the box on both these, where we had data on-prem, but still accessible to all the cloud components. We used multiple databases. We kind of ended up with using MongoDB, primarily because we wanted to check out how the big data thing works. We did try Aurora, but it's still in cloud. We can't do it, so we had to put Aurora on-prem to do it. Better alternate we had was Mongo. So these multiple options, I would probably say about 9 different options were tried in parallel to get to the right solution, and we launched it. Our downtime was just 2 hours. The movement of data, loading the data, making sure that the last known balance is updated was 2 hours, and then clients were always there. And the transition to the data when it is available was seamless, so people didn't even know how it was. And our normal transaction throughput is close to about 600 transactions per second over the weekend, during the weekend. But on that particular weekend when we did it, it hit almost 2,400. I mean, 4 times what we normally saw. Primarily because people were anxious to see, hey, what's happening with this whole migration? Is my money still safe? Is the account still safe, right? We kind of did over-communicate to our clients that we are doing it in that weekend. That actually prompted them to kind of check in every so often. So that increased the 4 times volume. Most importantly, what we were able to achieve was after the migration was completed, the next weekday, I mean, we completed on Sunday. Monday morning, we were able to tear down with the proof that all the data was destroyed completely, which was critical for the regulators as well, right? Because we had a copy of all the production data. We made sure that ledgers were all checking, and we started the business. We had to tear it down. So as part of our cloud journey, as I mentioned, just to summarize, we did leverage cloud to do the straddle, and for the short term, that 40 hours, we did leverage cloud to kind of stand up an environment, get the data out, and destroy it once our purpose was done. We partnered with Infosys to do all these 9. So, being bank, putting a flag or a content takes 3 to 6 months due to all the regulations and the checks and balances we need to put in place. This one, we did it in about 3 months and 9 different options evaluated. We went through this whole thing, selected one, got it done, and within 2 days, we kind of took it out as well. It was almost like a T20 match, right? Instead of a 5-day match that we normally play and either get a result, not a result, this was like get in, do, get out kind of a thing. So that's what I wanted to share with you. The slides did have architecture component that you can see, but I think we're going to send it by email, and if there's any questions, you can probably pose it on to me. Any questions now, or I can invite Matt for the next part of the speech. Matt?
Is this a placebo since the slides don't work?
Yeah.
Great. Last time I was here, I was telling the guys or the first time I was here was 1979 at Supercom. Things have changed a lot, and it made me think about how agile you have to be. You have to constantly reinvent yourself. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at 777 Partners, and we're an equity investor that has a unique capital structure. We have about 50 portfolio companies, and the focus of our investments is to buy companies that we believe are ripe for a digital change. So how do we take a primarily analog business and convert them into a digital business? And that migration is about looking for new product offerings, but it's also about optimizing maybe the legacy platform. So when I took this job on 3 years ago, I basically built, 3.5 years ago, I basically built a software capability in California that's extraordinarily agile, all engineers. And we team with Infosys and Amazon to essentially accelerate our business outcomes. And I'll tell you how we do that. And I have extraordinary slides. No, they're actually horrible slides. I'm not much of a PowerPoint guy, but imagine they're fantastic. It really is. This is not consultant speak. We actually produce real live business outcomes at extraordinary speed, teaming with Infosys. And it's because we both think the same way. And I did my first cloud project in 2013, so my group is very cloud savvy. But what we're looking at is building reusable components that can be used across our portfolio of companies, and thinking kind of in a sense using the kind of the mock standard, headless microservices that have these rich APIs that we can reuse and reconfigure very, very quickly. And I look into the Cobalt environment for microservices that I can also use. So let me give you an example. On slide 3, we have an aviation solution that we built. We own 2 airlines, but we also have a very vibrant software business in the aviation space. We have 2 PSS companies that provide passenger service systems. We built an all-new passenger service system that is a piece of an end-to-end solution. So you think about airlines, 1%, 2% return on investment, very thinly capital, very, very thin margins. How do we take, those kinds of legacy businesses and extract, more value out of them? And so part of that is taking pieces of Cobalt, like Live Enterprise, which automates the entire back end. Instead of Live Enterprise is a piece that, instead of outsourcing to a lower cost, place, Asia, whatever, we're actually just automating it. So all of these operating functions that used to be, manually driven, we've now automated. And then taking other pieces, like for example, out of the Equinox family of microservices that are e-commerce, and bolting those microservices onto our platform. So thinking about how we're going to remanufacture, and that's the way I look at things, how we're going to manufacture that service end to end, and do it with incredible speed. We built the entire platform in about 13 months, and we're competing against the legacy providers like Amadeus and Sabre, with tier 1 airline clients. So how do you take all of these pieces? And I have kind of a methodology that I've developed over the years, and part of it is also kind of using what Infosys calls zero distance, which is the concept of putting engineers directly at the, involving them directly in the problem space so that they have a rich understanding of the business. And because, building these solutions is really about this magical fusion between, the operators who kind of hopefully understand part of the problem and the engineers who understand technology, because we're trying to take technology and we're trying to do wonderful and exciting things with it. So the engineers have to understand the problem space, and they hopefully understand what the technology can do, and the operators are, hopefully, understand the problem. But it's astounding how many times the operators really don't maybe understand their entire business. It's one thing to look at the body and think you understand what a human is. What the software engineers have the opportunity to do is tear the body open, and they really see the plumbing. So sometimes this is magical fusion, but we try to involve the engineers at ground zero. But how can we look at this business kind of, end to end, and drive these outcomes that are, fantastic and offer business improvements? And so, I just have a couple of examples, and one is this aviation example, and I'm looking at a blank slide here, so it's not really helpful. And the other is, for example, we built a complete lending platform end to end in 7 months by reusing microservices and by utilizing some of the services that we can acquire from Infosys. So that's kind of my entire story. Any questions? Nagesh, do you want to come up here?
Yeah, no, thanks, Matt, and thank you, Sudhakar. Thanks, Anant. So I think industry cloud as a concept, we've always heard about the industry solutions that have been developed by Infosys or many of the partners, working closely with the industry experts. But what is unique about the cloud and what is unique about the financial services, and why I thought I'll talk about that a little bit, is if you look at financial services, there are some unique requirements, and they actually have been leading this building of the industry cloud. I don't know how many of you actually heard, last year you were in the AWS reInvent. Goldman Sachs jointly launched a financial services cloud for the various banks, and that would be primarily focusing on data. So that's probably what is needed because of the unique requirements that we've got in financial services, and I think that will continue to evolve. And now it's sort of expanding to other verticals. Every vertical and subsegment, right, is looking at how do I actually develop an industry-specific cloud so that there is reusability. But Matt talked about the portfolio companies. They've got about 3 or 4 companies. A couple of them which are airline companies, a couple of them which actually build software for airlines, right, which competes with Amadeus and Sabre. So how do we actually build a common platform that will help service all of these various portfolio companies, whether they are in the airline business, running planes, or they're actually providing services to other airline companies that are actually, running the planes, right? So I think that's the uniqueness of building these industry clouds, and we have worked with 777 partners in building not just airline is one example that he's talked about. We are now working with them in building something for financial services on the lending side. A reservation system, right, that can be used by. They also have a set of portfolio companies that work on various ticketing and reservation systems. So we are now building a platform for that. That's an industry cloud again. So similarly, for other portfolio companies that are acquiring, trying to bring all of them together on a common platform and ability to reuse those microservices. And again, Sudhakar talked about the whole banking data cloud, right? This was again a concept that existed, right? And we've actually looked at what are the various components that are needed to build something that would be secure, that can be used by a banks. It can be a reference architecture, and Truist was willing to experiment and look at the various options available. There is no cookie-cutter approach for the financial services earlier, right? I mean, we did not have. There are so many options available in the market. How do you actually make sure we get the best option that is secure and that also will deliver value in the fastest possible way? And that's the reason why we call it as an industry cloud, and we've actually built that. And Anand mentioned that this is an evolution, right? What we've done right now is some of these initial solutions. We are continuing to invest in this, and we see Infosys Cobalt, making more investments and building more industry-specific clouds, industry-specific solutions that can be used by many of our clients across all of the verticals. But with that, thank you very much for joining this session, and looking forward to seeing you at the booth. We've got Infosys booth in the village at booth number 135. And any questions to me or to the team, we'll be glad to answer.